Blessed indeed is the man who hears many gentle voices call him father. Lydia Marie Child, American abolitionist, women's rights activist, Native American rights activist, novelist, and journalist. All right. Good morning and welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. If you're joining me live, I want to especially thank you for tuning in so early. So today is my 300th episode. So how exciting is that? Hey there, applause there. Yep, that's awesome. That's awesome. So very excited to do my 300th. I threw it out on Facebook and I was like, all right, well, what should I talk about on, what would be a good idea of some things to talk about for my 300th episode? And so let's take a quick look here and see what some of y'all said. A couple of you actually said something along the line of like a 300 theme. And I went and I looked at the pictures and I was like, man, those guys have been working out. So unfortunately, you guys don't get me in like a skimpy robe, and whatnot, just because I don't think the optics are there. So we're gonna go ahead and skip on that one. Forest Mommy said open borders because clearly she wanted to throw a fireball on my 300th episode. There's another one, Spartan theme. Clearly, you need to answer the question, which bear is best? This comes from the armed bear. The armed bear is best as opposed to the disarmed bear. I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that exactly. The polar bear, I'm not sure, but like one of them is good, right? Somebody said I got nothing with a really strange video. I'm not sure about that one. Um, honey mustard Pringles. Confession, I don't eat Pringles, so I don't know what they taste like. The early history of the Libertarian Party, when did it begin? Who started it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not even sure that I could actually do that. I would have to spend some time putting that together because I don't necessarily know. I've only been involved since I was 20. Since 2017. The censure of Mother Jones. I'm not sure what that's about. Failure of restorative justice and how violence in schools is the leading cause of the teacher shortage. Well, I don't know about the leading cause of teacher shortage because I can't speak to that. But that does sound like a cool topic. So I'll put that in the queue for something to talk about in the future. The failures of the Constitution. Well, okay, so that sounds like a multi-part episode. Voluntarism in action. Another probably multi-part episode. And then we landed on, it looks like Awake Illinois had pinged me and said, hey, our 3-year anniversary of uplifting American principles, defending children's innocence, and protecting liberty in Illinois. Like, oh. So after some conversation, we have with us a guest in studio. And what I'm going to do is for my 300th, I'm going to do something a little different. The first half of the show, we're going to discuss, we're going to do like a dad talk. You might remember the old dad talks where I'd bring a dad in and we just talk about things that, dad to dad, mano y mano, right? And then after that, he's going to discuss his role in his activist role with Awake Illinois. So please welcome Aaron Mudge to the show. Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for getting me up early this morning.
I know, right?
I'm actually a morning or early morning guy, so I'm up every day at 5. Even though dad is the best job in the world, I do like that 1 hour in the morning of just quiet time. So,
Right.
so I get up
It's
at 5 and I have my quiet time. So
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was doing that for a while before I did my show. I would try to like get up and just like, all right, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna, whatever, just sit and have a cup of coffee and just
yeah.
chill and just relax. And then I got this bright idea to do a podcast. And so then it was a matter of after a while trying to figure out, okay, when do I get ready? When do I do all these things? And after several years, I landed on, you know what? I'll get up at 5 a.m. I'm not really a morning person. I'm more of a
Hmm.
night owl, but I can kind of bounce back and forth.
Sure.
So I now get up at 5 a.m., sometimes 4:30, somewhere around there, 4:35, and I prep for the show. And then I have my show at 7 and then jump off at 8 and dive into life, right?
Yeah.
The real world.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's
As
what I
soon as we
do.
get done here, we'll be doing school drop off, and then it'll
Yep.
be, checking in my mom. She just had her knee replaced, and then
Mm.
off to work, and try to pay those taxes.
Ah,
So,
man. Monday was a fun day, was it not? Like, we had to get all
uh,
our taxes in and, yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you.
yeah,
It's terrible.
I waited to the very last minute to send that payment through. It just bothers me every year, but
Right.
it's
Hey,
what it is.
as you should. So, folks, if you are not aware, you should always pay your taxes at the very last moment. The best, don't give the government a loan. Don't do that because they ain't
Yeah,
paying interest.
yeah.
So,
Zero interest loan to the government. I don't think they need it.
right. So tell me about being a dad. So I have one 5-year-old son.
Okay.
I think it's a blast.
Yeah. So I kind of came into it late. I got married in my 30s,
Mhm.
and my son was born when I was 34.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be the dad with the walker, going down the aisle at graduation. But
I had two when I was 40, so
yeah,
so
so
I definitely got to keep my health up, right?
yeah, so I feel a little bit like Rip Van Winkle when we got to schools, but we'll get there on that. So yeah, 2014, my son was given to us. He had a rough start. My wife got very sick in September. He was due November 24th.
Oh, wow.
Um, he ended up coming to us in September and weighing in at 2 pounds 9 ounces and about 14 inches long.
Did you say 2 pounds?
2 pounds 9 ounces. Yep. So
Wow.
my first experience with being a dad was walking into the delivery room, wondering if my wife was going to be okay and if Miles was going to be okay. You
Wow,
know,
that's
so um, so yeah, it was kind of a rough start. Carrie was very sick. She was in the hospital for 10ish days. Miles was in the NICU up at the Rockford Regional Center for 78 days. So it was, you know, wasn't ideal.
right.
There was no handing out cigars and high fiving. It was more just relief when both my wife and my son were okay. So
Well, it sounds like they're doing well now. That's the
she,
vibe I'm getting.
yeah, no, my wife is she's a soldier and she recovers very well. No matter what people throw at her, she just
Mhm.
overcomes it. And Miles, yeah, I mean, we've had, I mean, this kind of seems like one thing after another with a preemie, but we've had hernia surgeries, the reshaping helmets
Mhm.
for his head because the time in the NICU, sometimes their heads get a little wonky and flat spots. We've had physical therapists when he was a toddler. What was really funny and my first real experience with some of these therapists was the night before Miles had been walking around the living room. And then this physical therapist came over, and he didn't really like her or respond to her, and she wasn't very consistent like she was supposed to be. And she sat there and looked me and my wife in the eyes and told us that our son had an inner fear of walking at the night the day after our son was walking around the living room.
Okay.
So that was kind of our last uh, um, appointment with the physical therapist for a
Right.
toddler. But you know, it so it was just kind of crazy there for the first couple of years, and you just kind of did, you just kind of, as a dad, you just, something's in front of you, you knock it down, you move on to the next, knock it
Right.
down, move on to the next, and that's kind of where it was for a long time. Um, but yeah, he's healthy now.
Okay.
Very very imaginative young boy.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, he'll be our only child. So we are. So that kind of, when I was living in the on the pull-out chair in the hospital for
Hmm.
those 10 days were with my wife, it kind of dawned on me that I only have one son, so there was clarity. This is it. Like, I have one shot. I have to do everything I can for him
Right.
and everything I can for my wife. And not that you shouldn't, for if you have multiple children, but like, the pressure's on. You know, we have to get it right, and there won't be any other children to kind of help them get through life. So
Mhm.
we have to get it right as parents.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah, our son's probably going to be an only child we may adopt.
Okay,
But that is yet to be seen.
awesome.
So we'll see how that plays out. But for
Hopefully
right
the
now,
adopt Yeah,
only
hopefully
child.
the adoption in Florida is a little easier than Illinois. Illinois is very regulatory. I don't know if you've
Mm.
heard that about us.
No, honestly, there's so much going on in the United States that it's hard to keep up.
Yeah,
And then lately here in Florida, um, now I'm a libertarian and we're a bit feisty. I don't know how much you know about us. Because I think before the show you had mentioned you were part of the Republican Party.
well,
Uh,
just recently joined,
okay,
so
gotcha.
but we can get to that.
Gotcha. So I one of the things I like to do is like bill reviews, and I'll review bills from like the state level at different
Mhm.
states. And my own state has been keeping me busy because the Republicans have been just like passing not just like boring bills, like no big deal, like, oh, we'll
Yep.
modify this or modify that. Like they're significant. There's been quite a few of them. And so I'm like, all right, like you guys need to slow down because I can't keep up. And so that it makes it harder, of course, to see what's going on outside of Florida and
Yeah.
keep up with what's happening out there. And then of course the federal level, and it's just like there's just too much
Yeah.
government. Stop. So
Yeah. That it certainly is. I mean, most of my focus is on like school board,
mhm,
library board, city council, county board.
gotcha.
Um, but the here in Illinois, we also have that same problem, except for we're on the ultra left end of the spectrum.
Right.
When you think California and you think New York, Illinois is right behind them. So
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, we'll
uh,
get into that. Let's talk about being a dad. So, how old is your son now?
my son's 9 years old. He's
Oh, okay,
wrap.
okay, 9.
Yep, he's wrapping up third grade now. So it's been an experience with school and being a dad. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of that Rip Van Winkle effect.
Right.
I graduated high school in 1998,
Okay.
and here in Oregon, Illinois, we still had dial-up. Okay, so
Right.
the world has changed.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Like,
graduated in '97, and
sure,
I remember dial-up. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So Netscape Explorer, shout
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, I remember that. AOL chat rooms, ASL.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get it and you're like, "Hey, ASL." So
Well, and I'm from a small town, and we've got 4 state parks around us, and I worked in restaurants at the time, so internet was whatever. It was some niche thing that, you know,
right,
I didn't pay much attention to, because I was busy working, and we were, living that small town life, and enjoying having a
right.
good time. But the excuse me. So as I kind of came into a dad, I kind of backed into. I was very liberal when I was younger
Okay.
because you know, I worked in restaurants, so like I worked with everybody,
Hmm.
like everybody, like
Right.
uh, illegal immigrants. I worked with um, gay men,
Hmm.
gay women. You know, yeah, I also work in sales now, so again, I work with everybody. You know, some of the hardest people I have to deal with in my line of work. You
Right.
know, they're being in a small town when pedophiles come in and they want to purchase and transact business. You know, I've got to sit there and do business with them. So
Right.
it's just you know, you've got to be able to deal with everybody and everything. But as I got older, I started kind of you know wanted to pay less taxes, so I became I was probably more libertarian than liberal.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, because I didn't want to pay taxes. I don't want you taking what I work for. I don't want Big Brother telling me whether I can put up a fence in my yard. I
Right.
don't want him, you know, telling me that, I don't want to get letters from the school saying, your son's missed too much school and we're going to have to, you're only allowed to miss this many days. Like, who are you? You know, I don't
Right.
work for you. You work for me.
Right.
Um, so eventually, as, as, as my son started school, it was when COVID started. So
Hmm.
his first year of preschool was for COVID.
Wow.
And and what a way to start. Um, he so the preschool when COVID hit, they just shut down. They turned tails, ran, shut it down. Good luck,
Right.
you know. Um, so that was kind of awkward, and we're from a small town. We just see the news. We see all the people in New York. We're like, oops, sorry. We're like, this is crazy. What's really going on? You know. Um, so it was kind of it wasn't fair to him because his foundation of education was kind of kicked out from underneath of him by government overreach, a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
Obviously, at the time, we didn't know. With a healthy look back, we can see we
Right.
made mistakes throughout that.
So what's
So,
been what was your what's been your most exciting experience with your son?
uh, you know, he's such a sweet kid, and when we go to the arcade and
Mm.
he loves claw machines, and every time we win something, like it's the same reaction and the same excitement, and um, so it's more little things like that
Right.
than any one particular event. I really enjoy, just walking to the hardware store.
Mhm.
Kind of after I started kind of getting involved with things, we were walking, because we live a couple blocks from the hardware store. We were walking back, and a guy came outside, and he's like, "Hey, you're Aaron Mudge, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Oh, great!" With my kid, I'm like, "Ah."
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm Aaron. And he's like, oh, hey, I've seen you speak before and da 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 da. And I was, gracious, but then wanted to get on to it with my son.
Right.
And as we're walking away and his little hand was in my hand and he looks up and he goes, Dad, are you famous? And I was like, probably more infamous.
Right. Right.
so,
Look at that.
so, I really enjoy that. Obviously, his soccer games. I don't the nature of my work. I miss a lot of Saturday soccer games and basketball games, but I try to get to them. And what I really enjoy about him is he's just super excited to be about the kids.
Right.
Me, when I was his age, I didn't care about the kids. I wanted to play the game, and
Right.
I wanted to win the game. And he's more just a good, kind of a pure uh, soul. Not that he's doesn't have his issues, but
Right.
a very sweet young boy, and I'd like to kind of foster his innocence and his imagination and
Right.
keep him a child as for as long as I can without, you know, the world taking that from him, as you're going to be experiencing as a with a 5-year-old.
Right. Oh yeah,
So,
we had to right now it's not, arcades, he isn't, we've been to 1 or 2
mhm,
briefly, um, and we have a little bit of fun there.
yeah,
I think he had been there a little bit before he had an understanding of how to use, like, joystick controls and
sure,
understand the game per se. So he had, like, a very rudimentary understanding of what was going on, but not enough to actually play.
sure.
Now he's now he's in Minecraft, right? So, like,
Okay,
we there was a for, like, a month, I think him and I played Minecraft, like, every day for, like, an hour,
nice.
every single day. Now he we don't play nearly as much, well, I don't wanna say nearly as much, but we don't play as much as we did. He still plays a lot. Sometimes I just sit there and I maybe do some work or,
Sure,
I let him play by himself, or maybe he has a friend over and they play. So he still plays, frequently, but it's fun. But it's also frustrating because I don't know if you've played Minecraft or not, but
I have not.
so it's this game where you go in and you're breaking blocks, like everything is a
Mhm,
square.
sure,
So if there's like a hill, it's a bunch of squares basically, and then you can dig up the hill, and then you can take the dirt and you can make something else, right? And then you go and you find things and you build things. So it's just kind of like this little adventure game where it's almost like a little sim. You start out with nothing, and then you can, build up and you can get all these different things. You can get like gold and iron and all this cool stuff, right?
cool,
And then you can do stuff with it. You can make stuff,
nice.
right? And so it's kind of fun. However, I have found that if you want to test your patience, if you think like, man, I'm really patient with my son, go play Minecraft with him because sometimes he'll do stuff and I'm like, why are you doing that? And so I have to remind myself to be a little patient because it is only a game and he is playing exactly like how a 5-year-old should play, right? Like he is not doing anything wrong whatsoever.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
me.
yeah, I have a hard time not understanding that logic is still being built in my son. I'm like,
Right.
"Why would you do that?" You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
we
it's funny to laugh at after the fact though, because 'cause you're like, "Man, that
yeah,
was crazy."
yeah, so video games, I came up I had a Nintendo growing up,
Mhm.
but, like, video games, tablets, internet, he has a very limited access to,
Right.
so, like, we don't have a gaming system. We I finally bought or I got for Christmas a, one of those joysticks that had this old, uh, Nintendo games in it.
Mhm.
So, like, we'll play Super Mario together,
Yep.
or we'll do, Paperboy or some of these kind of just real basic games, but yeah, I've been trying to have him live his life outside of digital
Right.
as much as possible for right now.
Mhm.
I see plenty of teenagers that walk around and they're just in their phones.
Mhm.
They're on their, always in front of the TVs and different things. So
Right.
I'm trying to get him to, just kind of live in his, live with his mind and live with his own thoughts, and
Absolutely.
and not get too wrapped up in that. I mean, I remember when I got a PlayStation and I was a young man. I mean, I'd blow a whole day off
Mhm.
jamming buttons on that controller. What did it
Yep.
get me? Nothing.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it
Yeah.
just blew a day.
Yeah.
So whereas it is entertainment and it can be fun, it can be overwhelming to some people, and they can fall into that world. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to
No,
keep that away for as long as possible.
no, I hear you. We keep screen time limited here. So, like, I will literally set a timer on Alexa, so
Oh,
that we
sure.
a 1-hour timer, son, for you're playing video game or watching TV or something like that. And then it's like, hey, go play with your toys, go do something that requires, physical touch.
Sure.
Run around, and use your imagination and fight a dragon, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
Yeah.
You go do that. Because like you said, it's not that I have a problem with the internet per se, but there's this whole world, like real world out there to enjoy. And there's so many
Mhm.
things I want to make sure that he has a foundation in enjoying it because eventually he will be a teenager. Eventually he will be an adult and he can, grow up and become like the rest of us who are terminally online. At least I am. But I also try to practice good habits myself, so I make sure to
Sure.
get like I go out like yard work is one of the things that I like to do to kind of that's
Mhm.
how I touch grass, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Like I get out there and just get away from, because my work is on a screen, my 40 hour, my W-2 job. And then, anything else that I do is also online, podcasting and then,
Sure.
you know, you know, arguing with people on Twitter and stuff like that. So it's constantly online. So I'm like, all right, I try to show him like, hey, there's a real world out here. Let's go and check it out.
Yep.
Let's go do something. Let's go bicycling. Let's go out and work in the yard. Let's go build something in the garage. I've got like
Yeah.
a bunch of shop tools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So absolutely, totally agree.
Yeah. We were just picking up sticks this weekend, getting the yard ready for spring has finally got here. We hope here in Illinois.
Mhm.
But yeah, the whole garage atmosphere with him. I've always brought him out to the garage, put a tool in his hand, use a screwdriver. This is a
Yep.
wrench. This is and then I don't know. I seem to buy weird stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And one of the things I came across was they call it a PPV. It was a personal powered vehicle. And
Okay.
basically, this thing is it's like a paddle boat on three wheels.
Mhm.
And it's dual recumbent. And so I was like, oh, that'd be awesome for me and him to kind of cruise around town, head down to the park and get that thing. Well, so I did, and it was in rough shape. So then we fixed it up, and well, that wasn't good enough because there's hills, so I got to put an electric assist in it. And, so then there was a canopy to keep the sun out of our eyes. Um, so uh, so yeah, I mean, we love doing that type of stuff, and people see us come rolling by, and Miles I put a little honker horn on the thing, so
Right. Right.
so he loves hitting that thing when people wave at us. So, but yeah, that's the see it, touch it, feel it,
Mhm.
build it. Hey, I don't know how to do this, but we're going to figure it out together, type of stuff. And I think
Right.
that's cool, and problem solving. You know,
Absolutely.
um, so little things like that yeah, I like to do with them as well. We live in
Awesome.
a river town, so we get to walk down and fish or ride that thing down to and go fishing anytime we want. So it's you know it's fun to experience real life with him,
Right.
and like you say, more and more of my work is on a computer
Yep.
that I enter my notes in. Da, 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 da,
Mhm.
So to have just go out and experience life with them, feel the sun on our faces, and that's what I'm trying to build into him a little more than just being an indoor child. So
Right. All right. Well, we need to consider our time and let's shift
sure,
gears and let's talk about your work with Wake, Illinois, which is kind of what
cool,
the genesis of getting this conversation
yeah,
together.
yeah.
So you are, I believe you said you're a county chair currently.
So yeah, I'm county chair for Wake Ogle County here in Oregon, Illinois.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of came to Awake about a year ago. I was aware of them, and I liked what they were doing. Um, but I hadn't really been too involved with them until I had ran up against a couple walls in my bid to run for school board.
Okay.
So um, I ran for school board in last year, and there's a lot of kind of crazy stuff going on in schools right now. And they've really kind of lost their compass on what their purpose is in education, as they keep moving towards this community school model that's big here in Illinois, big in California, big. It's kind of
What
making
is
its
that?
it. So when they say community school, they want the school to be everything for every child. So what they're
Everything.
doing is everything. So if just down in Kentucky, I was watching the video on Twitter the other day. They actually have a dental office in the school,
Oh,
and so then they can take care of your child's dental needs. They're also putting medical facilities into schools so that they'll have physicians on hand to take care of kids. And on its face, it sounds like a good idea. Oh, well, they'll streamline things, make it more convenient. But we're up against kind of a gray area here because the school is taking ownership of children, essentially,
Mhm.
and parents already have that ownership of children. So we're kind of running into this confluence. Um, this young lady in Kentucky, her school was referring her to the Child and Family Services because they recommended that their school dentist do X, Y, and Z to her child's mouth. Her
Okay.
personal dentist said it didn't need to be done. But if
Hmm.
you don't do what the school says, you will be investigated.
Oh,
And yeah, so that's crazy, right? You're like, well, I take
so
care of his
so
dental
we're not
needs.
even so we're not even talking because the typical where I thought you were going to be going with this is talking about like gender and whatnot, which is a really hot topic right now.
We'll get
And
there.
and then you were like then you were like, "Well, actually, they wanted to do some dental work," and I was like, that was that really caught me off guard because I would not expect that whatsoever, and then to say, "Well, another dentist, the dentist we go to on a
Mhm,
regular basis, who is familiar with my child, right, has maybe been with them for a year or 2 or
mhm.
however long, right?
Yep.
They have said, "No, that's not necessary," and now you're being investigated. That's
Yes.
wild. That's
And
crazy.
that's in the state of Kentucky. Again, that was a testimonial from a mom.
Mhm,
Um, so that's crazy in my eyes. Like
mhm.
they
Yeah.
are completely overstepping their bounds. And a lot of that kind of stuff is going on here in Illinois. They do want to put clinics in the schools, and one of the largest proponents pushing this community model here in Illinois is Planned Parenthood.
Mhm.
So why would Planned Parenthood want to put a clinic in a school?
Right.
So, and to me, if we're talking liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, obviously me and Planned Parenthood wouldn't agree on a whole lot. I guess
Sure,
we
sure.
can kind of just leave that there because life is the first thing, and
Right,
and me and that organization have disagreements on when life starts.
right.
So, so there's a community school model heavy going into Illinois. Like I see this train coming down the tracks. I live in a small town of 3,500 people,
Okay.
and everybody's like, "Oh no, man, we don't do that type of school stuff in our school." I'm like, "Cool, great, awesome. I just want my kid to get a great education, be able to
Mhm.
walk to school, walk home, not
Right,
worry about gunshots, traffic, da da da."
right.
So in kindergarten, um, they started this class. It's called social emotional learning, and this is mandatory content for students. And in this class, they put up a video called "The ABCs of Equality."
Okay.
On its face, you're like, "Hey, that doesn't sound bad." But this is the era of online learning, so it's a video format. So okay, let me click on this video, see what it says. I was appalled.
Mhm.
These children had COVID kick out the back half of their preschool. Now they're in kindergarten with masks on their face,
Right,
going for a half day of school, and they don't know their ABCs and their one, two, threes. But then they bring in this program of ABCs of equality. G is for genders, of which there's a wide spectrum.
right,
T was for transsexual.
right,
Um, L was for lesbian. Z was for xenophobia. Like,
right, right,
I personally didn't know what xenophobia meant until they started using it against Donald Trump in
right,
2018. Like, I'd never heard the word used.
right,
I had
right,
to look it up, and I'm like, in what world does a kindergarten child need to learn about xenophobia?
right.
You know?
Because as you know, as a dad, and I've observed now my wife is Asian, so my son is very visibly Asian.
Mhm.
When we go to the park, I don't even know if he recognizes that other kids look different. Like he's played with black kids, he's played with
Yeah,
Indian kids, with white kids, with
they're
Hispanic
kids.
kids. He just goes there. He's only got one question when he hits the park. He's
Do
like,
you want
"Hey,
to play?
Do you want to play? That's his question. He doesn't care about anything. He don't even care if it's a girl. Like
No.
he'll go play, he'll go run and chase, and he'll be like, and then he'll come to me and be like, Dad, I got a friend. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, man, well, have at it, like go have fun. And he doesn't know any of that stuff. And and they're
Yeah.
trying to, and so it's like, it's just weird that they're introducing this concept of like xenophobia to kids who don't who have not yet experienced that in the world,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they might hear
Yep.
about it from their parents or maybe on TV or something like that, like, I'm sure that at some point some of these kids have have come across this information.
Sure.
But as a rule of thumb, their natural disposition is, do you want to play with me?
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, the boy over there with brown hair wanted to play with me, and he's my friend now. What's his name,
Right.
Miles? Oh, I forgot to ask.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, dude, like you're singing my tune right here. But hey, did you find your friend's name? Like, no. Like he didn't even bother to ask their name. He just,
Yeah.
do you want to play with
Just
me?
want to
Yes.
play.
Okay, bam, bam. There
Yeah.
they are running around. They'll play for a half an hour.
Yep.
Never, and I'd be like, did you get his name? Like, no. Son.
So yeah, so that kind of happened, and I'd reached out to the school. I had a pretty good relationship at that point with the superintendent, and he took care of it. He got the programming out.
Mhm.
We disagreed on what should happen to the teacher. He said it was a honest mistake. I don't buy that, but that's is what it is.
I mean, you
The,
honestly accidentally grabbed a video that was not appropriate for children. Like, even if it wasn't like like adult themed. And when I say adult, I mean like adult themed. Like,
mhm.
okay, maybe it was just, like when I'm picking movies, I don't accidentally pick a rated R movie to
Yeah,
watch in front of my son, right? Like I'm
yeah,
cognizant. And I would expect if you're a teacher, you're cognizant and saying, okay, I need to pick out material that A is appropriate and B that that's gonna make sense to them. Like,
yeah,
like even if it's not like inappropriate, it just may not be geared for children. So like
yeah.
that's what and in this. Teachers loved it to say, well, they love to snap back with, well, are you an educator? Well, no, but I
Yes,
also
I'm a
am not.
dad. I've
I
been doing
mean,
it
right,
since day
right,
one.
right, right, but I mean in the formal sense, right? And I'm
Sure.
like, "Well, no, I'm not, but I'm also not the person that said, 'Man, I accidentally picked a rated R movie for this kid to watch.'"
Yes.
I didn't accidentally pick a movie that was inappropriate for
Yeah.
a kid, whereas you accidentally picked this, this training for a kid, and you're supposed to be the educator, the expert, right?
Yep.
So, like, I don't know.
Well, and just kind of touch on that point real quick. We are our children's first educator
Mhm.
and the most important educator. So any
Yep.
dads,
Oh,
moms, anybody listening, you are so much more important than whatever that teacher
oh,
does. So,
totally agree.
uh,
Yeah, when I say expert,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all I mean
Oh,
is in the formal sense.
yep. But I just want, because they come at you so hard, I just want to, all the dads, moms, anybody out there, just know this.
Right.
Know this. No matter how hard they come at you, you're their first educator. You make the shot. You call the shots. So,
So
um,
you got involved in Awake Illinois, or is it Awake Americans? What's the structure here?
so, so Awake
I want to be
Americans.
careful of our time here, so I know you got to go and do
Yeah.
things. So,
So Awake Americans is 501c3, and it's
mhm,
more that's more of our kind of a national uh, format. Awake Illinois is geared specifically at the local. When we had masks on our children, Shannon and Awake, they sued the governor with Thomas DeVore, and eventually
mhm,
we won in the state, and we were able to remove our masks. We were no longer under the heel of Mr. Pritzker down in the state house, and
okay,
that's what a lot of the overreach is here in Illinois is the heavy-handedness of the Democratic Party. I mean, obviously they're very communist style, where they just want to take over everything.
right,
Um, but how I got involved with Awake was through my school board run
okay,
last year, and I want to touch on this because it's important, and I understand we're
mhm,
running up against it. But while running for school board, I was notified by some parents about a club that was happening at the lunchtime. And um, there was a teacher who was gathering children in her classroom, unbeknownst to the school board,
Hmm.
the superintendent, or their parents. She was gathering these children in their classroom to talk about sexual topics aligned with the LGBTQIA. This she had coloring handouts and assignments and different things, and I had gotten my hands on one of these documents, and I had started asking questions to my superintendent. And one of the best things to ever do when you're dealing with a bureaucrat or administrator is start with the questions you already know the answer to,
Hmm.
because then you know for sure that they're lying to you. Most of the time, you're pretty sure, but like
Right.
you'll know for sure if you start with questions you already know the answer to. So
Right.
I did a series of days where I was asking questions and follow up questions. And finally, I had enough. And I FOIA requested this information about the secret lunch club. Got the information. This teacher was full on, I'm entitled. This is like she wrote an email to one of the other principals. I'm entitled to do this work. This is the work we need to do. Da 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 da. Um, and kind of laid out the fact that the administration had been lying to us. They were shading the truth. They were only announcing what had happened to certain at like fifth and sixth grade rather than the whole school of what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, and my big problem was I couldn't get anybody to listen. No local media responded to me that they were having a secret sex club in the elementary school here in Oregon.
Hmm.
And everybody kept telling, no, this isn't happening. This isn't. No, it's happening. I had some friends who had done some work with Awake Illinois, and I asked for Shannon or for a contact over there, and they had given me Shannon's number. I called Shannon up. We spent an hour and a half on the phone walking over this. She did her due diligence, and then she published it for me.
Right.
She was nice enough to get it out to Parents Defending Education as well,
Hmm.
and just kind of to raise awareness, because I've been told since day one we don't do that in our school,
Right.
and they're going to tell you all we don't do that in our school, but they do. They
Right.
do that stuff in your school, and if you're not paying attention and you're not looking at the homework, um, and some of this stuff, they're sliding it into math questions, the DEI, the it's just so insane
Right.
how far down the track this thing is. And as a dad, I couldn't do it on my own. I had to reach out and get help.
Got it.
Since then, I've also, there's another guy on Twitter. If you get a chance, a good follow, Chalkboard Heresy. He's a
Okay.
former Illinois public school teacher who's blowing the whistle and telling anybody who will listen what it's like to be an Illinois public school teacher,
Okay.
and kind of what they do. So anybody listening, give Frank, give Frank some of your time, and he's got some interesting content there on X and Twitter. Um,
Okay. CB
but
looks like at CB Heresy.
yep, yep. So he's awesome, and so now a lot of what people send me information. I don't have a huge platform. I'm not interested in a huge platform, but I know people with bigger platforms. So I get this information out to them. And recently there was a special needs classroom in the Rochelle School District
Hmm.
here in Ogle County. And they have this big board of handprints with the rainbow flags and or the trans colors and or non-binary, whatever your little identity is.
Hmm.
So, and this isn't a special needs classroom in the Rochelle schools. And a lot of us I had received a picture from a student. I'd gotten it to Frank. Frank had gotten it online. And then members of the Rochelle community took that and then went
Hmm.
to their school board with it, which is great, because you have to when the dog pees on the carpet, you almost have to rub their nose in it. Otherwise,
Hmm.
they're going to just keep peeing on the carpet.
Right.
Not to say that the schools are dogs, but you kind of have to. you have to treat them that way and let them know that you are in charge. You're going to be the alpha in this situation,
Right. Well, I'm gonna
and
tell
you're
you,
going to
when
take
you're
their
talking to
cue.
libertarians, you can totally make schools or dogs analogies. We will be perfectly fine with that because if we had our way, we would abolish public schools. So
I
we think they're that bad, that there
Yeah,
is no
if they gave
reform.
me the $14,000 that they spend on my child's education here locally, I could do a lot more with it than they're doing.
Right. Right.
So
It's interesting. You mentioned that, that there was this secret club going on, and it was like, no, no, this is not happening. You do a FOIA request, and all of a sudden, wow, okay, we find out not only is it actually happening, you knew about it because there's emails talking about this. That seems to be a common theme, right?
yeah,
Like, remember CRT? First, it wasn't happening.
yep,
Then, okay, well, it is happening, but it's at college level. Okay, well, now it's just teaching history. Like, they just keep changing the tune. And when I
yep,
say they, I mean people who are trying to educate our children about things or with
mm,
topics that we may not agree with. And there's this common theme of we continually hide this information, which to my knowledge did not exist. It was not
no,
even in existence when I was in high school, right? Like
no,
they didn't teach you things that your parents didn't know about. Now your parents may not have known about it if they weren't very involved, but that's the parental issue.
yeah,
But it wasn't like the parent found out because they did a FOIA request,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that's crazy.
It is. I never thought in my life that being, just kind of a, you know, high school graduate dad who does this or that to get by, that I would be filing FOIA requests and, you know, like this was never on my radar to be this, to be doing all this stuff. But it
Right,
just became apparent that I had to because other people weren't. And,
right,
if I left it for somebody better to do, I didn't know that it was going to get done.
right. All right.
So,
So let me interrupt you one more time.
yep.
I know I want to be sensitive to your time. I have a little bit of flexibility with mine. So if we want to go over, that's fine. I don't know where you are, if you need to
I
wrap
can
it up.
probably do about another 5 to 10 minutes, and then I
Okay.
gotta.
All right.
Sure.
So I'm gonna let you lead that then, and I'll just
Cool.
kind of, if you keep an eye on the time, or if you want me to, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we all get where we need to go and our
Yeah.
kids get where they need to go.
So, and kind of piggybacking back, one of the things that really struck me with the ideology of a lot of these educators and people on the left, there was I forget the name of the article, but there was a gentleman out in California, an equity scholar or author,
Mhm.
and he said the only way that California would achieve true equity was if the state required parents to give up their children to the state. And that would be the only way that we could have a truly equitable experience in life in
Right.
California. Think about that.
Uh,
Give up your child to the state? Is this the is
I
this the
mean,
USSR? Is this China? I mean, what are we
right.
saying here? And
I
then
mean,
when you go
go remind me,
forward, yeah, I mean that's insane that you would give up your child to the state.
right.
Um, Not saying that there aren't parents who have issues and maybe they have to for a period of time, or they just have to because they shouldn't have been a parent, and that child deserves better. So there are instances, but man, those are those have to be extreme situations. You cannot, enforce equity by confiscating children,
Right.
and that's the biggest problem is that they think that they're doing what's best for your child, and they don't know your child like you do.
Correct.
So
And
it's
I'll throw another name out there in the chat here. It's Dr. This is a Twitter person that you can follow,
mhm,
Karlin Bosenko. In some areas, she can be a little bit on the wild side. She's
sure,
one of our fellow peeps up there in New Hampshire, and
okay,
they can be a little bit wild, but she does a lot of work talking about this very kind of thing. And so she points out, I think she has a video, and you guys can search for it or something. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes if I can find it. But she has a video where she's talking about like the equity is the problem. So when you're looking at like
mm,
DEI, she's like,
yep,
look, that's fine. In inclusivity, that's fine. It's when you get to equity, that's when it becomes a huge problem, because effectively they're trying to level at what they see. And when I say they, the people that are pushing these kind of
Mhm.
ideas, and they have no boundaries.
No.
And so they will totally destroy the American family to achieve their ideas.
Yes.
And
Yep.
she has done a lot of work to talk about, like, when people are basically trying to destroy capitalism. All these
Mhm.
other words, they effectively mean capitalism because they don't like it, and they're going to destroy everything that gets in the way in order to take down what they see as capitalism. So if you can, go ahead and give her a follow and check out some of her stuff. She's done a whole lot of work.
Another nice one is James Lindsay and his new
Mhm.
discourses on YouTube.
Conceptual James, I think.
Yeah, conceptual James. Like, my God, like the amount of mental abuse he puts himself in by reading all that stuff, and
Right.
I mean, good Lord, like it's um, thanks James for doing the work, but it's hard for me. I like when I'm doing the research, sometimes I just have to put it down and walk away for a day or two because
Right.
it's just too much.
It
And
is. And it's crazy because your son is 9, mine is 5.
yeah,
They need to be learning, like, well, not your son so much, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. Well, not even my son. They need to learn how to read and write,
hmm,
how to do math,
yeah,
multiplication, add, subtract, all that stuff. And they're busy trying to insert all these other things.
yep,
And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. You haven't even mastered the basics.
yes,
In fact, not only have you not mastered them, you're doing a terrible job with them. So I can only imagine how terrible it will be in
yeah,
every other facet that you try
yeah.
to attempt, because you haven't
How,
figured out. It's not like you master this and you're like, all right, we have room to do more. No, you're just adding more to your plate while you're flopping like a fish
yeah,
at what you're supposed to do.
yeah. It's so frustrating, but you just kind of you just let them know that you're watching.
Mhm.
Like with my school, they know I'm watching. I messed up. I missed my first school board meeting in 3 years Monday night. I was just
Uh-oh.
so busy at work, and I lost track of time. And I'm like, oh shoot, missed it. Uh, but you just got to be there and be constant. My school knows I'm going to be there. My new superintendent. So we just hired a new superintendent, which is good because my relationship with the old one had kind of expired after the FOIA.
Right.
Really wasn't looking to be my friend after I splashed them.
Right.
So the new superintendent I have high hopes for. But he knows exactly where I stand too because I gave him a copy of the James Lindsay's and Logan's new book, The Querying of American Child.
Mhm.
I gave him a copy of that, and I also gave him a copy of Abigail Schreier's new book.
Okay.
Uh, and I gave them a couple. So I gave those two books, and I also gave them 2 chocolate bars from Jeremy's Chocolates in the Daily
Okay.
Wire. And
Right.
so, like, here you go, buddy. Congratulations on the new job. So,
Right.
but right there in that gift pack, he knows where I'm at. Um,
Right.
and you know, luckily, I have a previous relationship with this gentleman from. So it was taken with a good spirit.
Good.
But you got to let people know where where your line is.
Right.
And I recently had an issue with a teacher crossing a line, and I immediately let her know. And this isn't the first time, so I went ahead and let um, both superintendents, the current and the soon to be superintendent, I let them both know about what was going on and my expectations moving forward. Now, is that kind of a like I don't want to be the Karen who's talking to the manager, but like I'm sorry, there's just certain lines you can't cross as a
Sure.
teacher. And if you
Sure.
cross those lines, and I've told you not to cross those lines, there's going to be repercussions. Just like
Right.
if I go out there and I speed, I'm going to get a speeding ticket.
Right.
You know. So holding them accountable is and setting your line with your with your administrators and your teachers is so important. Um,
Mhm.
Otherwise, they're going to just do what they want to do.
Right.
So,
Before we wrap up, anything else that you wanted to talk about with Awake Americans, which again, folks, just a reminder, Awake Americans is the national organization, and then the state chapter is Awake Illinois.
yep.
Presumably, Awake Americans is looking to have Awake in other states as well.
Yeah. So we're in an all blue state here.
Mhm.
The second largest party in our state is independents. So, um, so
Wow.
we need a counterbalance in our state, which is why I got involved with the Republican Party locally. We have a fairly good grassroots movement here in Ogle County. So we're not traditional
Mhm.
Republicans per se. Um, so whether it's Libertarian Party, whether it's Republican Party, whether you're just a Democrat and you want to bring sanity back to the Democrat Party, get involved with your local parties
Mhm.
because they're making decisions on your behalf that maybe you wouldn't make.
Right.
And the only way to get a seat at the table and start changing it is to get involved, which is why I ran for precinct committeeman. I now have a vote in county politics
Right.
and a vote in the direction of which way the Republican Party goes. Um, so that obviously, um, I have issues with the Republican Party
Mhm.
because like I say, I'm probably more of a libertarian conservative than true Republican. Obviously, I do think that Republicanism, like a democratic republic, or I'm sorry, a representative republic is better than a democracy or a
Mhm.
communist. So it is my preferred form of government. Has it been bastardized and abused? Yeah,
Right.
it kind of has.
Right.
But um, when we can get more common sense, everyday people involved, and less of the activists and the ruling class, the swamp creatures. If we can get
Right.
more of them out and more of us kind of everyday dads, moms, people who just want life to be good, I
Right.
think we can start making a difference in all the parties, and then hopefully make things get a little bit better with our education system, with our
Right.
economy and everything else.
Awesome. Well,
So
sir, I know that we both got to get going here
yes,
so
sir.
that we can get our sons where they need to be at the time that they're supposed to be there.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming on, Aaron. Excuse me. Excuse me. I think I still got allergy seasons hitting me hard here.
Oh, it's full
But
force here too.
so I appreciate you being on and discussing. Maybe we'll have you back on again and kind of do a follow up and just talk a little bit more about Awake Illinois is doing, what Awake America is doing. Maybe dedicate a whole show to it. Kind of talk more in depth on some of the things that they're doing. I saw that there's a bunch of videos on the Awake Illinois website. In fact, my friend Sarah Higdon was on one of the
Yeah,
episodes. She's out
yeah.
of Georgia.
Shannon's been doing a lot of work um, with that. There was a bill here in the state of Illinois, which would have limited parental say um, in some of these transitioning
Hmm.
instances. So so Shannon did a great series on Leave the Kids Alone,
Right.
and she had on all sorts of people that um, from across all sorts of different lines of thought in to kind of talk about this issue, and the universal thing through all those people with all those different perspectives is leave the kids alone.
Right. And for anybody listening or watching, just so it's clear, when I mentioned Sarah Higdon, she is a trans person herself.
Mhm.
So, we're not necessarily looking at an organization that's entirely anti-trans because they had a trans person on to discuss a boundary for children.
Yep.
And there are plenty of trans folk out there who say, look, adults should be free to do what they want. However, children, it's a different matter because they cannot consent. And so we need to have very specific boundaries. And then we also need to have boundaries with parents.
Mhm.
We cannot be doing things without parental knowledge. that is highly inappropriate for so
Yep.
many reasons that we do not have time to get into right now. So just wanted to make that clear for anybody that's listening or watching, because I know we didn't get too deep into the nuts and bolts of
Yep.
either organization. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's leave the kids alone, man. That's that that's where it starts with me, and you know, it's a hill I'll die on. So,
right. All right.
so I appreciate you having me on. And anytime you want to get back together and chat, I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely. All right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm going to close my show and you can hang backstage, or if you got to go, you got to go. That's fine too.
I probably should get running, but I do appreciate everything. You have a great day. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. All right, folks, that's my show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern, for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. Make sure you subscribe, and while you're there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, I want you to remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now,